Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we re-diving into the epic story of one of history's most iconic and controversial figures, Napoleon Bonaparte, and the vast empire he forged. How did a man from a minor noble family on the island of Corsica come to dominate almost all of Europe? And how did it all come crashing down? Grab your popcorn, because this is a story of ambition, genius, and ultimately, ruin. Our story begins in the chaos of the French Revolution. France was in turmoil, and a young, ambitious artillery officer named Napoleon Bonaparte saw his chance. He wasn't just a soldier, he was a brilliant strategist and a charismatic leader. He first gained fame at the Siege of Toulon, and his star just kept rising. He led successful campaigns in Italy and Egypt, becoming a national hero. The people of France, tired of instability, saw in him a strong leader who could restore order. In 1799, through a coup d'état, he seized power, becoming first consul. For all intents and purposes, he was the ruler of France. But Napoleon's ambition didn't stop at France's borders. In 1804, in a moment of ultimate self-aggrandizement, he crowned himself Emperor of the French. This wasn't just a title change. It was a declaration. Napoleon embarked on a series of military campaigns that would reshape the map of Europe. We know them as the Napoleonic Wars. At the Battle of Austerlitz in 1805, often called his masterpiece, he decisively defeated the combined forces of Austria and Russia. This victory cemented his reputation as an unmatched military genius. He used innovative tactics, rapid troop movements, and the core system to outmaneuver his enemies time and time again. With each victory, his empire grew. He installed his relatives and trusted marshals as rulers of conquered territories, from Spain to parts of Germany and Italy. He created the Confederation of the Rhine, dissolving the 1,000-year-old Holy Roman Empire. He established the Duchy of Warsaw, giving hope to the Polish people. Napoleon wasn't just a conqueror. He was a reformer. He introduced the Napoleonic Code, a revolutionary legal framework that promoted meritocracy, secularism, and equality before the law. This code was so influential that it still forms the basis of civil law in many countries today. He reformed education, centralized the government, and stabilized the economy. For a time, it seemed like Napoleon was invincible. However, two major thorns remained in his side. The first was Great Britain. Protected by the powerful Royal Navy, Britain was untouchable by land. Napoleon tried to cripple them economically with the Continental System, a large-scale embargo against British trade. But this backfired. It was wildly unpopular, led to widespread smuggling, and hurt the economies of his allies more than it hurt Britain. The second thorn was the fierce resistance he faced in Spain. The so-called Spanish Ulcer was a brutal, protracted guerrilla war that drained French resources and manpower for years. It showed that Napoleon's armies could be bled dry by a determined populace. The beginning of the end, however, was the catastrophic invasion of Russia in 1812. Why did he do it? Tsar Alexander I had defied the continental system, and Napoleon, ever the enforcer, decided to make an example of him. He assembled the Grande Army, a massive force of over 600,000 soldiers from all corners of his empire. It was the largest European army ever seen. But Russia had a different strategy. Instead of facing Napoleon in a decisive battle, the Russian armies simply retreated, burning everything in their path. This scorched earth tactic denied the French army food and supplies. Napoleon's army reached a deserted and burning Moscow, but it was a hollow victory. With no supplies and the brutal Russian winter setting in, he was forced to order a retreat. That retreat became one of the greatest military disasters in history. Starvation, freezing temperatures, and constant attacks by Russian partisans decimated the Grande Armée of Thermidor. 600,000 men who marched into Russia. Fewer than 100,000 made it back. It was a staggering loss from which Napoleon's empire would never fully recover. Seeing Napoleon weakened, the other European powers, Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, formed a new coalition against him. In 1813, they defeated him at the massive Battle of Leipzig, also known as the Battle of Nations. The tide had turned for good. With his armies shattered and his enemies closing in, Napoleon was forced to abdicate in 1814. He was exiled to the small island of Elba, off the coast of Italy. The Bourbon monarchy was restored in France, and it seemed the Napoleonic era was finally over. But Napoleon was not a man to accept defeat. In a truly audacious move, he escaped from Elba in March 1815 and landed in France. The troops sent to arrest him instead flocked to his banner, and he marched on Paris, reclaiming his throne without a single shot fired. This period is famously known as the 100 Days. The European powers, stunned by his return, quickly mobilized their armies once more. The final showdown came in June 1815, just south of Brussels, at a small village called Waterloo. At the Battle of Waterloo, Napoleon's French army clashed with a coalition led by the Duke of Wellington and the Prussian Marshal Blucher. It was a brutal, hard-fought battle that hung in the balance for hours. But in the end, the timely arrival of the Prussian forces sealed Napoleon's fate. His army was routed, and his last gamble had failed. This time, there would be no second chances. He abdicated once more and was exiled to the remote, windswept island of St. Helena in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. He would spend the last 6 years of his life there, a prisoner, before dying in 1821. So, what is Napoleon's legacy? It's incredibly complex. Was he a tyrant who plunged Europe into a decade of war, causing millions of deaths? Or was he a visionary leader who spread the ideals of the French Revolution, liberty, equality, and fraternity across the continent? The truth, as it often is, lies somewhere in between. He was a military genius, a brilliant administrator, and an egomaniac with insatiable ambition. His empire, built on conquest, rose like a meteor and fell just as spectacularly. But its impact was permanent. He destroyed old feudal structures, modernized laws and governments, and inadvertently fueled the rise of nationalism that would define the 19th and 20th centuries. The story of Napoleon's empire is a timeless lesson on the heights of human genius and the perils of unchecked ambition. What do you think? Was Napoleon a hero or a villain? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into history, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next video. Until next time, stay curious.